It's Sunday the 4th of the 5th, 2025. The time is 6 minutes past 10. It is race day, round 6, Miami Grand Prix. That means it's going to get techier than techie things. Although, if we get anywhere near as chaotic a festivity as far as the automotive pugilism today that we did yesterday, I think many F1 fans would be happy. But between now and then, we've got to talk about some F1 news, F1 centric threads which we need to pull. First, we'll talk about Scuderia Ferrari, we'll talk about Andrea Stella, and we'll talk about the difference between McLaren and Verstappen and the boys and girls over at Papaya. Go on, let's do that first, in fact, because people have said to me, what are you talking about, Cameron? Stop glazing Max Verstappen. I mean, it was a good lap, but it weren't great. I mean, he had an RB21 capable of doing that. Well, here's the difference, chat. We spoke about this yesterday, right? It's not necessarily the fact that he's bloody quick. It's the fact that he brings out the best out of himself at the times when he needs to most. Let me show you. And again, I've had to put on my noddy accounting cap to pull out some numbers. You excuse me. This is very agricultural, but you get the picture. Look, I pulled together the theoretical best times of Max, Oscar and Lando. Can see their theoretical best time of Maximilian Verstappen is a 1:26.204. That looks familiar, eh? The best theoretical lap time from Lando is as near as makes no difference, a 1:26.0, 26 flat. Therefore, best theoretical from Oscar Piastri, bottom right of your screen, a 1:26.173. Ergo, both the McLaren bods should have improved materially on their Q2 times. Only one of them did. That dude has a name, and his name was Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, therefore, stasis. He went sideways, indeed went backwards as versus his Q2 time. Let's have a look at what Max Verstappen did. His theoretical best time in Q3, 1:26.204. What was the time that he actually did? 1:26.204. That's what we're talking about. It's not necessarily his pace that we should be talking about as much as we are. It's his ability to execute one lap quali, Q3 settings, Sebastian Vettel settings in his heyday. And here's what these guys are leaving on the table. Lando Norris left 0.253 on the table as versus his best theoretical times. That's material. That's of consequence and moment. That matters. So too, Oscar Piastri left an additional 0.2 on the table if he were able to extract the best out of himself in the same way that one Maximilian Verstappen can. That's what we're talking about. And that's why you've got to celebrate one Maximilian Verstappen at each and every single juncture, because he's making these things look routine, and they are not. Not quite mission impossible, but very difficult to execute at this level with that much consistency. Oh, and by the way, Andrea Stella's reacted, right? He's saying that he's not having all this shenanigans from Red Bull because they keep spinning a narrative, spinning us a yarn, telling us that they're not as quick as they really are. Here's what Stella said post the qualifying session. I think it's a solid qualifying session. It's a good position for tomorrow. The car is very strong in the race trim. So qualifying is not ideal, but it's good. And that's a starting point for tomorrow, race day. That's where we refocus. Andrea Stella, by the way, worked with Michael Schumacher back in the day. And I think he's starting to understand not just his own mortality as a team principal, but the foibles, multitudinous errors of his drivers as versus the true great ones. Maybe Lando and Oscar will get there at some point in the future, but what's irrefutable at this juncture is that they are not there yet. Lando Norris struggles with mental fortitude and execution. Oscar Piastri struggles with absolute pace in real time, as he did yesterday. He's a brilliant driver, and of course forensic, the way he positions his car, he will one day be a champion. So too Lando Norris, but are they there in the here and now? Are they ready to fight with a Maximilian Verstappen, a fire-breathing dragon force from so soon to be 5-time champion? I would argue not. Andrea Stella would have seen those numbers that we just went through, and he will understand the mistakes. He will understand the size and the parameters of the opportunity that his drivers have left on the table. Lest we forget, Frederick Vasseur said this is a qualifying championship. Oscar Piastri said clear air is king. So what are we doing then? Andrea Stella continues, and I quote, ideally we wouldn't, but I think we're going to have to make Formula One slightly more entertaining, so I hope you will appreciate this attempt. Tongue-in-cheek, of course. Andrea Stella, being the Pep Guardiola of Formula One, wouldn't want to give Red Bull anything. He won't want to leave any durable competitive advantage on the table, nor any millisecond or lap time, trying to make light of a very bad situation, because it feels like McLaren are continuing to seize defeat from the maws, no jaws of victory. Stella continues, jokes apart, you know, Max, he always does such a good job, so we need to just execute qualifying slightly better. No kidding, Sherlock. This is the crux of the matter. He's danced around the topic, but the final soliloquy, the final stanza is the point that he needs to make. His drivers just need to be better. Now, maybe they don't have them in it. Maybe they don't, have it in them just yet. Maybe this is Oscar Piastri's 3rd season. Maybe in Lando Norris's 7th season. Maybe you'll never get there. But if they are going to, then they'll need to expedite for their learning curve. And pronto, as Max Verstappen's turning the screw on the boys and girls at Papaya evermore by the second, and Andrea Stella doubles down as we go into race day. Here's what he had to say. He said that Red Bull are claiming to do miracles. They keep telling us that their RB21 car is mercurial, that their wind tunnel is from a bygone age, from Cold War times or whatever, and that's all lies, all propaganda. Here's what he said, and I quote, Red Bull, they're very good at making fast cars, and they're very exceptionally good, I would say, at driving fast cars, and they are extremely good also in creating the narrative to their advantage. Oh, the humanity. He continues, they exploit every possible opportunity to stay in the competition, and some of these opportunities sometimes is to create the narrative like, oh, we're making miracles here, that others should win every single practice session and qualifying race. But this is the narrative that's created by some of our competitors, which we read occasionally, and then we change the page and we focus on ourselves. And when we focus on ourselves, we look at the numbers, and when we look at facts, we look at what we should improve, and that there is a lot that we should improve. No kidding, Andrea Stella. We've seen the numbers, chat. You're leaving 2/10 on the table against a fire-breathing dragon in Max Verstappen. That is blood in the water to a shark. You can't afford to leave any millisecond, let alone 2/10. That's a chasm. You guys keep making mistakes. Can talk all you want to about the propaganda that Christian Horner spins, and of course from their perspective, the bulls that are red, there is durable competitive advantage, and that particularly as you go into race day, you got to praise Max Verstappen for some of these feats, because what's for sure is that he doesn't have the best car. Is that car 7th? Is it 4th? Is it 2nd? One thing's for sure, that it's definitely not 1st, and Max Verstappen keeps putting it on pole as if it were the market lead in terms of pay. That's all you need to know, Andrea Stella. And I rate that chap. I do rate it. But again, when he's giving those interviews, making light of the circumstance, the fact that his drivers are still leaving lap time and competitive advantage on the table, in qualifying in particular, the all-important paid session, which will ultimately 9 times out of 10 around these type of tracks in this rule and reg set determine the finishing order, particularly of the top 3. I think Andrea Stella is realising just how steep the mountain up which he and they will need to climb if they harbour aspirations of winning themselves championships of the constructors and or drivers variety. Houston, McLaren, Andrea Stella, Zach Brown, Lando Norris, OJ Piastri, McLaren, Houston, we have ourselves a problem. Oh, the humanity.